Hey, Homeworthy, I'm Brian Branton, and welcome back to my house, Cedar Grove in Edgefield, South Carolina. Otzi and I are thrilled to have you here and show you everything that we've been doing to renovate this house. We've done a lot on the exterior and even on the interior, so I'm glad to show you. I'm Brian Branton. I recently purchased Cedar Grove, a beautiful historic home in South Carolina that was built in the late 1700s. I'm inviting Homeworthy to come along with me over the next few months, maybe years, I hope not years, as I restore parts of this home to its original glory that hasn't been touched in years. She needs a lot of work to make her shine again, but it will be so much fun. I hope you will join me as I document this amazing journey.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
It's been almost a year since you guys were here last. I think it was August since you were here. And last time you were here, that portico was covered in scaffolding. Now it looks like a deck. So just trust me, it's not going to stay this way. This is hideous. I keep joking I'm gonna buy a grill and put it out on the deck and barbecue because I hate it so much. But they did that as a safety precaution so we wouldn't fall off of it. So insurance was kind of asking for it. But as you remember, it's supposed to have 4 columns on the top and 4 columns on the bottom, and then they have arches over above that. We have all of those original elements. They're still in the garage. They're just going to put those back on. They had to fabricate some of the columns, so that's what's been the slowdown. The people that were originally going to have to fabricate the columns disappeared on us. We found somebody new. And then I don't know if you know about this, but since you were here last, we had something called a hurricane, Hurricane Helene, and that did just a crazy amount of damage. Luckily, not to the house, but that slowed down this progress too. So I'm a year into this renovation and double over budget. And that's where all my hair is gone. So again, I can't remember how much you guys remember about what we did. So I'm going to kind of walk you through everything that we've been doing. As you may recall, the house was covered with that cheap vinyl siding. We removed all of that vinyl siding and then restored the original siding that was underneath. A lot of places, the siding was there, it was in great shape, we could keep it. And other places, we had to have new boards milled. All of the siding that you see now on the front and you'll see on the sides and the back has all been done. It's just waiting to be primed and painted. So this has not been painted. On other sides, I will show you the color that the house is actually going to be. About a month after you guys were here in September, we had a ginormous hurricane that came through. And the funny thing is, none of us kind of realized how much of a hurricane it was going to be. We all thought it was going to be, I don't know, maybe at most a tropical storm. I remember thinking it was going to be Luke's birthday that weekend, and we had all these plans for his birthday. And I remember thinking, you know what? We'll go out garden. Maybe we'll lose a couple limbs. I probably had about 50 plus trees that I have lost in this storm. And you see these 2 giant pecan trees right here. Luckily, those did not fall down. Although I did lose a giant limb out of one of them. But and nothing hit the house. I was scared to death something was going to hit the house. But I did have a giant tree that was on the north side of the house. It was a hackberry, and part of it fell on the pool house and the other half fell on the pool. So I had to kind of rework both of those things. But I consider myself very, very lucky in the grand scheme of things. The only hassle was the roof. So they had taken off the roof in August to put this new composite cedar roof on. And once they took off the roof, then they went AWOL, as contractors tend to do. And we were without a roof for like 6 weeks. The hurricane blows in and we still had no roof. The only thing that was on there was kind of that membrane that they cover before they put on the roofing material. So the night of the storm, we literally had to carry buckets up into the attic and catch rain that was coming in, really a deluge, to keep it from going down the house. Now, luckily, the house is completely made of wood. All the walls, all the ceilings, all the floors, everything is wood. So it yeah, would have been way worse if it had been plaster. It was easy to dry out, but whew, it was a mess to deal with that night. So one of the positive things that came out of the hurricane is the one tree, well, again, we lost over 50 trees, but the one tree that we lost that was really close to the house, it opened up an area that allowed us to plan a new garden. And we've been doing, in the past year, while we wait on the exterior renovation to finish, we've been doing a lot of garden work. So we've been trying to get the yard in the way that we want to do it, except for the grass. You're gonna have to ignore the grass when you see it here, because we called True Green to come kill the weeds and then we could have pretty grass. Well, they killed the weeds and we realized, well, holy crap, our whole entire yard was weeds. So now it's just like piles of dirt everywhere. So this fall, we are going to have pretty grass put in. But one of the beauties about this garden is we have tons of camellias here in South Carolina, and we had a lot of established camellias throughout the yard, and we decided to transplant them all into this one area here on the north side of the house to create a camellia garden. Now, the path hasn't gone in, so you're going to have to use your imagination, but it will give you a sense of what it's going to be like. We're going to put in a brick-edged pathway that's pea graveled. Right now, it's just, you're going to see the faint outline of the pathway. That's where you'll use your imagination. So the tree that came down was like right here. A third fell in the pool house, third fell in the pool, and the other third fell into the pasture. So we had to redo all of that. And in doing that, we decided, oh, let's transplant things. So this whole privet hedge made no sense where it was before with the pool. So we moved over here to create a buffer between this and the pool, and then transplanted all these camellias. So you'll have to come back in the early spring when they're being full bloom to really see the beauty of it. And then we've planted a lot more varieties that are just teeny right now. This is where you'll use your imagination. You see a giant circle here where the pathway will come out. We're gonna have a garden feature here in the middle of it, but it's then all completely outlined with camellia. So it's a really pretty view when you look out the guest bedrooms and the wallpaper room and the library. And it just makes for a really nice addition, which we wouldn't have had to have before when the giant tree was right here. The north side of the house here also gives you a sense of what we have done and what still needs to be done. This side, as you see, all the siding has been restored. We still have the window trim that needs to be done, but and the trim around the door, those finishing details. But and I have shutters that I've had made, and I will show you the shutters. Those have to be hung on there. But that's the paint color. That will be the paint color. They just have to finish painting around the windows and everything. But it's a creamy white. And you can see that is not painted. Again, I don't know why they stopped and didn't paint that part, but it comes and goes in stages. Oh, and this is Chappie. Of course, we had to get a barn cat with so many mice around the area. And Chappie is the friendliest barn cat in the world. And Chappie is a big hunter. We have seen Chappie kill a whole slew of mice, but Chappie has also killed a rabbit, in which they ate the entire rabbit but left its head and its little paws, and then left them for us, I guess, as a treat. But even with that, Chappie's very sweet. And Chappie and Oatsy, Love each other. Let me show you the pool because we had to redo that and we just got it opened up again 2 weeks ago. And since then, I have been in this pool every day that I've been here. So the first thing that you may notice from this pool is I have a new pool fence, finally. If you go back and rewatch the old episode, you will see that I had this janky old fence that made no sense. It kind of rambled. It drove me crazy. Well, luckily that tree fell into the fence and gave me a good excuse to do a new one. We had seen this fence, this exact fence at Woodlawn, and we just loved the look of it because we didn't want to compete with the pasture fence, but we wanted to be a step up from the pasture fence. So I just thought this was an interesting detail, but it did not take away from the rest of the house. Originally, when we were going to do this, we were going to put in a fancier fence. And it's funny how time and money will change your plans, but honestly, the longer we lived with it, I like the simplicity of what we ended up going with. And then, as you may remember, we were building this pool house porch when we were here last time. It's almost done. There's a little bit they still have to do around the eaves, but you get a full sense of what this porch is going to be. And honestly, out of everything that we've done so far with this renovation, this has been my favorite because it's been such a difference, a huge difference in the way it makes it look. Again, if you go back and look at the way the pool house was before, there was just an arbor. It only covered like half of it. It was really chintzy. This has just been so much more pronounced. I just love it. Again, they're not finished. Nothing's painted. Just keep that in mind. And they still haven't finished the trim work in here, but it allows us to have fans. You know, we have a nice dining area here, some comfy seating, lots of plants. It's just, and again, we turned this pool house into like a little guest house. So it has a full bath, a little kitchenette, you know, a little bedroom set up in it. And it's a wonderful place for the guests to be now at this porch because it's just an extension of their living area and they can come sit out here and enjoy the pool. Honestly, on the hottest days of the year, we move out into this pool house because it's so much cooler than the rest of the house. And I love it. It's like a little, you know, staycation away from the main house. All right, let me show you the other stuff because again, in addition to doing the renovation of the house, we've also been renovating every single one of the outbuildings. That's why this is taking so long and why I would like to think that's why it's gone over budget. But I know the real reason it's gone over budget is because of all the hidden surprises you find when you open up a 200-plus-year-old house. But yeah, there you go. It's a labor of love. So one of the biggest changes that we've made is with the carriage house. It had cheap vinyl siding all over it too. So we had that removed, had it sided, and then face nailed. They have done that. It just needs to be painted. We still have to have the shutters put on it. And we also put the same cedar shake roof on that, but it looks great. So come look at it. So it just looks like the rest of the house, but I'm telling you, if you go back and you see what it looked like before, trust me, it makes so much of a difference. The other thing that you wouldn't really notice is those two windows up above, we had taken out and put in larger windows. So it's added way more light upstairs, and that upstairs is my new future gym. Again, I can't complain because after that hurricane, there were so many people around the area who lost their homes and, you know, the roofs were taken out. So of course the work kind of stopped here and went to places where they needed it more. So in that downtime, we started thinking about what we could do, and we really started working on the yard and shaping up the garden for what we want it to be. One of those things was putting in this tree alley, and it's one of my new favorite features. Now granted, keep in mind, the trees are small, but they will soon be big. And this area over here is one of my favorite places to sit in the winter because when the trees aren't leafed out, you can sit down at the end of this tree alley and look back toward the house, you know, through this kind of courtyard area here with all the outbuildings, and it has such a pretty view back toward the house. So these trees are red sunset maple. I wanted to bring in some really vibrant, pretty fall colors, and maples are really the way to go with that. Maples tend not to do that well this far south, but this is a variety that can tolerate the heat this far south. So I'm excited to see, and they've been really thriving since I've been painting. So I'm excited to experience the first fall with them to see what they look like. The great thing again about this tree lay is the view back toward this area. And just to give you a sense of everything that we're doing, and everything is in various stages of renovation. The garage, as I said, it just needs its final finishes, touches putting on, and then it will be painted. Everything's going to be painted the same color, which is this creamy white called Niveus. And then the shutters are a vibrant green. I will show you that. It's called cat's eye green. You know, I stole this color from the cupola house in Edenton, North Carolina. I just thought it was really pretty and wanted to mimic that. So that's going to be the main house. That's going to be the pool house. That's going to be the carriage house. That's going to be the stables. And that's going to be the kitchen house. Everything will be that same color. The fence around the pool that you saw will be the same color as the house. And then the pasture fence and this fence kind of along the tree lay is going to be a dark green because I just kind of want it to disappear a little bit. But here we go. That's the tree lay. I mean, when you have a house that's this old and has this much history to it, the history really comes alive. And we walk through here all the time with our eyes peeled toward the ground because you will find shards of like old Edgefield pottery or, you know, Chinese export that they broke and threw out. So we've been, you know, making a little collection, and I will show you that shadow box we put together. But we found somebody who's pretty local to here who invented his own kind of ground penetrating radar, and he has been coming here just because he likes to do it for fun. And he's been helping us find out where the foundations of all the original outbuildings were. We know there was a barn that was right over here. But the most exciting thing is we found our privy. And of course, for any of you who are really interested in the archaeological aspects, a privy is where you can find most of the important stuff because they would throw them down in the privy as kind of a trash heap. So let me go show you where this privy was. It's really interesting. And we've got the hole covered up. He's coming back tomorrow, but we'll show you what we'll be doing with it. All right. Welcome to Cedar Grove's. I'm sure this wasn't the only privy they had, or maybe this was the original one, maybe this was a later one, but this is one of their privies. And so we have about 4 feet of the hole dug so far. He's coming back again tomorrow and we're going to dig some more, but we've already been pulling up shards and bottles and just a lot of neat artifacts that have come out of this. He also, his ground penetrating radar picked up where he thinks there was another privy. And this one I find really unusual because it's an odd place for it to be. He claims, his name's Carl. Carl says that this makes a lot of sense. It would be right here because it's by the kitchen house. And they said a lot of times they would put them close by the kitchen house so the smoke from the kitchen house would mask any smells. So, and it's also relatively close to the house behind you. But the other privy, or at least he thinks it's a privy, I will show you. If you turn around, you can see the giant camellia right here. There's the foundation of what he thinks is the privy right here, which is such an odd place because there is, of course, the south side of the house. They used to have a porch on this side. That's the dining room. So to me, it's just an odd place to have it. And then, of course, behind you is the terraced garden that was, you know, reputedly laid out by Andre Michaud. So it's funny to me that they would put a privy right where they would have an ornamental garden, but Maybe. The other parts of the garden that we've really been trying to tackle, and the way we've approached this whole garden design, in total, we're looking at about 3.5 acres that we're trying to landscape and manage, which is a whole lot. And maybe that's taking on too much, but that's what we've done, is we're trying to kind of create different garden rooms. You saw the camellia walk that we had on the north side of the house. You saw the tree alley that we have on the west side of the house. And then here on the south side of the house, we are trying to block off the terrace garden. This fall, we're going to work on restoring it, and one of the ways that we're going to restore it is by planting boxwood along the edges to kind of soften the edges and create really kind of, not a labyrinth, but a pathway for you to walk down and kind of ramble down. And the way to frame that out also is creating this boxwood alley that has the deer that we have as a garden element at the end, and then around that, although you can't really see them because they've just been planted, is forsythia that will be a semicircle around it. So eventually you'll see that wall of yellow in the spring. These boxwood will get massive, 6, 7, 8 feet tall. And then down there in that group of cedars, we've put in a shade garden. So let me show you that. Now, I say we are doing this, but Luke, my partner, has done the Lord's work and really putting in the shade garden. The only thing I did was kind of mulch the path. So I got the easy part and he had to deal with the hard part. So it's brand spanking new. So just keep in mind, this will fill out. But we have everything from Solomon's seal, to hostas and caladiums and ferns and Lenten roses and astilbe. But it's just to create another interesting garden room to walk through. And then when you come around this corner, you have this great view back up through the terrace garden and the house. And so it's one of my favorite little gardens that we've put in so far. Now you guys have been hearing traffic, as you can see, we have a road right beside us. It's not the busiest highway, but for some reason today it's the busiest highway. But I've been trying to grow a hedge here along the side to mask the traffic and kind of help block down the noise. But as you see, I've had it like a pond that keeps growing up in this area. Anytime it rains, we have a drainage issue. So we're finally having that taken care of, and they're having a huge drainage ditch that's going to come in, go under the driveway, and we're having this new driveway put in, and carry the water on the other side, and then on the other side of the road. And then I will be able to put in a hedge, because I've tried to plant tea olive, and the poor tea olive are drowning. They're really getting root rot down there. So I'm going to have to try again once I get that dried out. Okay, so now here is a little sample of the shutter. Just keep in mind, this is not the shutter for this window, and this window has not been painted yet. But it'll give you a sense of what it will look like. And is that not the prettiest, most vibrant green? I just love it. So I can't wait to see all of these on the house very soon. And by the way, I've been recording, kind of documenting this whole journey, and I've been putting up on YouTube. So if you want to see every little messy detail, just search my name and you can find it on YouTube. But one of the additional little add-ons was we had to rebuild this entire back porch. I wasn't expecting that. I walked you through, because they were in the process of rebuilding it. It's essentially been rebuilt, but they haven't, again, it's like they get 95% there and then they stop without doing any of the finishing details. So it hasn't been painted. They haven't put any of the finishing details. But I got sick and tired of waiting for them to finish. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to put all my furniture back on this porch and live on this porch instead of waiting for them to finish every last detail. So here we go. The furniture is back on. It's going to be really pretty when it's painted. So just picture it nice and clean and painted. Um, but one of the main rooms that we have gotten finished is the library. You guys saw it last where we had put stuff in place, but I was still kind of waiting on a bookcase to finish framing out one side of the room. I finally found one at auction in the fall. It got delivered sometime in the winter. So let me show it to you. All right. So here is our library. You coming out, see? You know, one of the things, it's funny, you're going to think I'm a liar because every time I've told you a story before, we have found out additional information and then realized, oh, what I was telling you before wasn't entirely true. We used to think this was the original office for the house. That's not true. We've now since met family members and they say this was built as a bachelor's quarters, the bachelor room. So when you would have single men come to stay, they would actually put them out here. And some of the family members said they always thought of this as Uncle Bob's room. But so forget my saying it was an office. Apparently it was a bachelor's quarters. Or even they would build it for visiting preachers to come by. But we've now finished it. We have gotten this bookcase in, which is the heaviest bookcase in the entire world. When it was delivered just outside the porch, and we had to move it up on the porch into this room, and I thought that we were going to die to do that. We still have to have a couple shelves made for it to finish it out, but other than that, it's done. We've got all of our books up in here. Okay, we still haven't really done anything major on the inside. This may look very similar to what you saw last time. The first thing that we're going to do though is we're going to start painting. And before we do that though, we're having a paint analysis done. So we're very excited about that. There are 10 spots that we're going to kind of pick from. One of the places that we want to pick from is this hallway. We want to see what the front door paint color was, or if it was faux grained at all. We're going to do it in the dining room, and we're going to do the trim and the wallpaper room, the parlor. Those are the areas that we're really going to kind of focus on. And then even when we get the analysis of what that color was, that's not going to dictate what we paint. As you can see here, we already have our paint colors kind of picked out. We just want to know from a historical perspective what the colors were in this house. And you may remember this when I showed you before. This house went through a period of what can be called benign neglect. You know, and the great thing about that is they just didn't have the money to really do anything. So this house has so few layers of paint on it. If you come over here, you can see really how few layers of paint it is. It's slowly kind of coming off, and you see this creamy white, a green, and then really I think it was just kind of the stain of the wood behind that. So I'll be curious what the analysis finds to see if there's something else more to it. All right, so now we're in the dining room, and this room is great for entertaining because it's so large. And we have already had, even though the house is not finished, even though it's not perfect, even though these window treatments will literally fall apart if you touch them, we still like to have people over in this house. I didn't think, I was going to have you guys over here at Christmas time because you guys know how much I love Christmas. I didn't think I was really going to decorate that much for Christmas because the house was still under construction. There was still scaffolding up front. And since I couldn't really do anything on the outside, I thought, well, what's the point? But then I started putting up some trees. I ended up having 2 trees, one on each of those tables in this room, a tree in the wallpaper room. I went pretty crazy for not really decorating. And then once I did that, we were like, we should have people over. And at first we're like, let's just have a few people over. And before you know it, we had a full-blown party that we put together in like a week's time. And then once we were like, oh, people are coming over for the party, we're like, well, we need to put wreaths outside on the gates so it will look Christmassy as they drive in. So it just spiraled and it went a little out of control. So already we are planning for doing another party for this Christmas, which will just be crazy over the top. You guys will all have to come back to that. And then we want to have a party too as soon as they finish the outside. And that outside, they have promised me will be done this summer. So fingers crossed, we will have a party this summer to really kind of showcase the outside being finished here as well. And then the other thing we love to do is the house is so spacious for having guests. We love to have house guests over here, with our families, our friends. And it makes me happy to have this table completely full with people, just laughing and drinking and having fun. So remember when I told you that I lived through a hurricane without a roof? Well, we really didn't have any damage in the house, even though water was coming in and we had multiple buckets everywhere, except for one place. And that one place is the newest part of the house, and that's the kitchen. It's the one place that has drywall. And so the water that came in through the roof here caused our ceiling to collapse. And it collapsed there, and it collapsed in the other part where we had drywall. And so they haven't come to fix that. And it's already been, 5 months now. It's driving me insane. But I've gotten used to the plywood up on the ceiling. But hey, it is what it is. But the other thing I want to show you is I told you about all the artifacts that we have been finding on the ground, and then the work that's being dug into the privy. The coolest things that we have found, one is this 1830s ale bottle that was found underneath the library. Now that library was built around 1825 or 1830, so it makes total sense that this would have been found underneath it. We think that one of the people building that little addition had done some ale after work, threw the bottle on the ground, and then there it was the whole time. The guy that was doing the ground penetrating radar is a big expert in bottles, and he was really talking about how this bottle was made, which was fascinating. Of course, I can't remember any of the details. So you will have to look up how this bottle was made. I can't tell you anything about it. And then here's just some of the great things that we have found. Now, out of all of these, and there's way more, Luke found 95% of these. He's eagle-eyed about this. He can literally just walk and look on the ground and be like, oh, here's a piece. I have only found 2 things, but one of the things that I found is one of the most important, which is this piece of Edgefield pottery. And of course, Edgefield is known for its pottery. And I've talked about some of that stuff before, so it's great that we have some of the actual pieces and that great Edgefield glaze there. But we have a lot of this feather edge as well, and some of the export porcelain. I love it. So it's just living history. Okay, so now we're upstairs and we're in one of the guest rooms. This is the room that we affectionately call the Chinese room, which makes no sense to you now, but it's only because we have this great paper that we picked out that we're going to wallpaper on this walls. But I brought you here because this room is not done. So don't even look at the room at all. It's hideous right now. But we had another ghost story. Luckily, we've had very few. But this is one of the freakiest ones. When you were here last, I told you about how a sconce had been lifted up off the wall and thrown on the ground, which makes no sense. This one's even creepier. We have a bunch of little trinkets, these old wax seals that are in this little secretary, and these were out and underneath that bed. We have no clue how they got there. There's nobody else that's in this house. Sadly, we do not have a housekeeper. If you know anyone that needs to come, we're in dire need of a housekeeper. But they were there underneath that bed. And we had heard a story from previous owners that the ghost, when things go missing, they will end up in the room downstairs that I showed you. So maybe they were in the process of taking this stuff down there, and that's as far as they got. But whew, let me tell you, I'm just glad the ghost has been quiet of late. And then when you guys were here last, we had the whole door and this hallway from the upper part of the portico kind of plywooded over, so you could not go out on it. So that's now been taken off, and as they said, they've got the temporary portico stuff on, so you can actually use the portico, and it's been really nice. We really love sitting out here. All right, so here's the portico, and what I love about this portico is the view, because so you're looking out on the front, which is the east side. You have all the sunrises here. But on the north side, you have this great view over this pecan tree into the pasture, and you can still see the camellia garden I showed you before. And on the south side, you have a great view of the terrace garden and the boxwood alley and the shade garden that walked you down. So I just love this view of the house. Now it's going to be much nicer when we have not a deck and a pretty portico put back in place. But so just picture it with the pretty railings that are supposed to be here and the pretty columns and the pretty arches and it painted. Once that's done, I'll have you back. All right, Homeworthy, thanks so much for coming by. I swear the next time you come, the outside of this house is going to be completely done, and then I will start all the fun work on the inside. So come back soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.